Hi all, I'm Colette and I'm here today with Witch Ways to talk to you about developing your psychic and intuitive senses. I'm going to talk about some herbs to enhance your intuition, some deities that you might want to call on, and some various techniques that I've used with others over the years. I'd love it if you put in the comments a technique that maybe you've heard of or a type of psychic awareness. Enjoy. Intuition and divination is a strong part of my personal witchcraft practice, but everyone learns differently how to be intuitive. And not only does everyone learn differently how to be intuitive, but everyone senses things differently in different parts of their body and in different ways. And there's a wide variety of intuition types. Clairvoyance. This is the ability to see things and events that are happening far away. Some people call this the sixth sense. Clairaudience, the ability to hear voices from beings or humans that are not present in physical reality. Empathic sensing. This is something we all have to a greater or lesser degree. This is the ability to sense, feel, or be aware of other people's emotions. Intuition through touch. This is the ability to sense energy with your hands, whether it's blocked energy or strong energy or energy that needs to move. This is often an intuitive sense that is highly developed in body workers and acupuncturists. Pathfinding intuition. This is the ability to let your feet or your body find the energetic pathways below the earth or on the magical plane and let yourself follow them. General divination. This is someone who has the ability or an affinity for getting psychic information from cards, whether that's oracle or tarot, objects, runes, or the Ogham, or any other symbolic system. Someone once said to me that when you get really deep into any kind of divination, that the system you use is just a filter, but you can move beyond that filter and get information directly from source, whatever that source might be to you. A few more types of intuitive skills are precognition or premonitions. This is the ability to get information about future events from whatever means. And this could be something small like thinking of someone and then they call or text you. It could be larger, like sensing weather changes or earthquakes or large-scale events. Sometimes this shows up specifics with very clear pictures for people. Other times it shows up in just a vague emotional sense. Telepathy, the ability to speak to another human being without speaking directly mind to mind or picking up on what they're thinking. Dream intuition. This is the ability to get information from the dream worlds and to accurately interpret your dreams intuitively. Channeling or aspecting. This is the ability to let yourself open up and let another being, spirit, or deity move through you. This can be obviously very risky, is not without danger, and you should only do it if you're a skilled practitioner or you're working under someone else's guidance. Truth readers. We all have this ability to some degree, but some people are highly skilled at it. One way to develop your intuition is to invite herbs to help you. Here are a few common ones that will be easy to find that you can use. The most common is mugwort. Most of us know about this for its use in dream pillows. However, you can also use it in a steam or as an anointing oil or burn it. You can also lay it on your altar when you're doing any form of divination. Cinnamon. This is another herb that's very common. What it does is it raises the energetic properties in the room and draws spirits closer. It's also very protective, which is often helpful when you're doing work with other beings. When beings are drawn closer, it makes it easier for you to get information. And another really common herb is peppermint. This herb can be used as a tea drunk before sleep or for a sprig placed under your pillow to bring prophetic dreams. Let's talk about some techniques. Typically, one of the best times for getting psychic information is seen as the dark moon or the late waning moon. But one way to start to develop your psychic awareness is to tune in to different moon phases and just feel what that energy is like. And it's helpful because it gives you something to focus on. To do this, light a candle at either a new moon, a full moon, a waning moon, or a dark moon. Sit quietly in a room with no lights, ideally with a window that you can see out into the night sky. You can of course sit outside if you feel safe doing that, and let your mind soften, your gaze soften, and imagine the moon's energy moving towards you and pouring into you. You can hold out your hands if that's helpful to you to catch that energy. Let words, pictures, and images drift across your consciousness. Don't edit. Then when you're done, take a few minutes to write it down. I think it's really helpful to record for several months before you start to notice common themes. This exercise is probably easiest to do at full moon when you have something visual to focus on and you can feel the energy most strongly. This next suggestion is a more somatic exercise or technique, and it's helpful for all of us who have westernized minds. However, it's especially good for people who have difficulty getting out of their heads or have racing thoughts that get in their way. Take some time and find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, and let your body soften and relax. Imagine energy moving down, let it settle in your gut, and try and keep your attention focused there. Let some thoughts or feelings or images float up, just let it flow. I also feel it's helpful to just get a few things and stop before your mind can wander. And it will also take several months to start noticing and feeling what things are true and what these things and symbols and words that come to you mean in your life. This can also be adapted to work with groups, and so each person can take turns going in while everyone else magically supports and then go around the circle. People can share afterwards if they choose. Another somatic technique is to use your hands. You can imagine that you have eyes and ears in your hands or openings in your hands that can receive information. This technique is really good for when you have a couple choices in front of you. You can imagine in one hand one choice and in the other hand the other choice. The choice that your body intuitively knows is best might feel heavier or lighter or shinier, and pay attention to the emotions that come along with considering each choice in this way. That will give you a lot of clues to help you tune in. Here's a technique to help you start to get intuitively connected to the land around you. Go outside and for a minute or two, close your eyes and notice what's going on around you. What do you feel? What is the temperature like? What sounds can you hear? Can you imagine what might be going on in the soil below you? Do you notice anything that might be going on in the air around you? And again, don't edit. I'm going to say this like a million times. And just then notice any thoughts, words, or sensations, or even emotions that come up for you. And just take a minute or two to do this and then stop. It's way better to do this several times in a season and to keep it really short and keep it kind of playful and fun. Otherwise, you won't do it. There are many techniques to develop your intuition about divination using cards, whether that's oracle or tarot. One that I like is to take a card, observe it closely, and imagine that it's an illustration in a book, a very simple book. And if it was an illustration in a book, what story would it be telling? You can write down a short paragraph. Again, don't worry about it making sense or being in any particular order or being a very perfect piece of writing. Just imagine, just play with it, be playful. Another thing that I think is really helpful when you're starting to get information psychically is to get really good with a pendulum. This again is a practice. It takes time. I have a video on this, as I'm sure many other people do as well. And the way I would work with this is if you kind of think, oh, this piece of information means this, you can use your pendulum to get a simple yes or no answer. And when you're working with pendulums, I think it's important to have a strong physical connection so that it's your body's own intuitive sense of what is true and best for you to connect to that pendulum, or to work with a deity to help get the best possible answer. Another thing that I tell people a lot is that we all get information differently. And people often think of getting psychic or intuitive information as if there's a really clear sentence that comes down and appears in your head. And sometimes that might happen for you, or that might happen for some people, or that might never happen. More commonly, you get symbols, emotions, sensations, feelings, and it's up to you over time to learn to interpret those. For instance, when your ancestors show up, you might have a sensation of being in a time back in history and feel the energy of that time or the pictures of that point in history moving through you strongly, or feel it around you. You might also feel a particular landscape. Some people describe this as memory. That feeling that you have when you're remembering a sunny summer day or some other seasonal memory, the way that that can be real visceral. A lot of people describe this sensation from the ancestors as like that. Another way that people sometimes get information from the ancestors is through dreams. They might dream about a different historical period or walking through an old house. They might dream about walking through an antique store with lots of objects that feel very shiny and very attractive. That could be messages from the ancestors. Another thing that happens for some people is that they smell scents. A lot of people describe that is a way that they know an ancestor is around. That could be a favorite perfume or fragrance or cigarettes or cigars or alcohol, something that you associate with them. If you work with deities and you have a reciprocal relationship with one in particular, you can ask that deity to help guide you, protect you, and be more intuitive. From my background, there are a few deities that are associated with divination. Bridget is associated with divination, which is something that a lot of people don't know. There also were 3 sister goddesses in early Celtic lore that were associated with divination. Another Celtic deity is Ogma, the Celtic god who brought language, the alphabet, and the Ogham to us. I am doing an online workshop on the Ogham later this month. There's a link in the description. If you work with Germanic or Anglo-Saxon ancestors and deities, the Norns are very important, and you might try calling on them. They are three wise women who hold and weave the fates of the world. And of course, there are many deities all over the world and in every culture that have to do with divination. I know I've said this a lot, but the most important thing is to not edit the information as it's coming in. That doesn't mean that you don't use your common sense later when you're acting and implementing that information. It just means that you let it come through in an unfiltered way, and then take some time later, maybe even a day or two later, maybe a few weeks later if it seems especially significant, to interpret it, assess it, and edit. Learning intuitive skills takes time. It's a practice. And it's also really important to be gentle with yourself and non-critical as you learn these skills. After all, you're learning to use a different part of your brain than you use every day. This is a part of your brain, it's the primitive part of your brain that you knew how to easily access perhaps when you were a child, but you may have forgotten how to activate that part of your brain. It's a part of your brain that's associated with memory, play, imagination. So give yourself some time and be gentle as you're working with these techniques. It's also the same part of your brain that sees patterns in clouds, patterns in tree bark or rock, or daydreams, which are all forms of divination that you just do naturally without even thinking about it. Take it seriously and give some intention to your practice if you want to be good at it. This isn't just sort of a one and done. Divination can definitely be risky if your health is extremely fragile or you are not solidly grounded and rooted in your physical body. One of the things that I like to do that I feel helps with this is to get out in nature, to see the beauty and magic that is here in this realm, as well as doing anything that gives you physical delight. People often ask me if they need to cast a circle before doing divination. That really depends a lot on each situation, as well as being a personal choice about whether you work with circle casting or not. And there are a lot of different answers to this question. In general, I would say that if you are just practicing a technique or doing a quick check-in, you might not need to cast a circle. If you are doing an important divination around asking a serious question or calling in beings, you might want to cast a circle. Or if you feel like there's sketchy energy around you. If you have a favorite book about divinations or card readings or psychic skills, just put that in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. If you would like to check out my Patreon page, where subscriptions start at $5 a month for monthly spells, or you would like to check out my workshops on my website, I'll leave links below in the comments. I always add a link about a few equity resources that need time and donations as well. But for now, stay safe and be well.